Isles of the Emberdark, for me personally, was one of the most important projects in the entire Cosmere to have been done right, and I am delighted by the results. Hello World Hoppers, welcome to Cosmere Horizons, and in this video, the first half is going to be my non-spoiler thoughts on Isles of the Emberdark, and the second half will be my spoiler review for Isles of the Emberdark. Anything I'm considering as non-spoiler is basically, if it's on the back of the book, it's fair game for me to say it, so if you want to go in completely blind, then just don't. Why'd you click on this video? To get right into it is why I believe this book is so important in the grand scheme of the Cosmere is we have really hit a point, especially once, with Wind and Truth being done and the next thing being Ghost Bloods, there is a certain involvement of the Cosmere that is going to become more commonplace. The interconnectedness of the Cosmere is at a peak, and I feel like it's only going to get more involved. And because of that, Isles of the Emberdark really gets us a preview of what the future is going to look like. With certain projects in the past, namely the Lost Metal and the Sunlit Man, it almost feels like those Cosmere connections were awesome, and they got me so excited. But they traded story. Like a Sunlit Man, I really like, and I really like the Cosmere connections, but the emotional payoff of that story is only satisfying if you've read certain other books in the Cosmere. And that's why Isles of the Emberdark was so important to me, and especially that I really wanted to see it be done right. And I am so stoked to confirm that Isles of the Emberdark, I think, is the best balance of heavy Cosmere involvement, yet maintains story that we have in the Cosmere. The story is definitely the focus here, and the emotional payoff and every single beat throughout the story, you will be able to stay with it whether you've read everything in the Cosmere or not. And what's crazy about this too is this is definitely the most Cosmere heavy book we have in the Cosmere so far. Like there's everything. There's a mention to almost every single story in the Cosmere. It's kind of awesome. The two main characters, Dusk and Starling, are both just great, especially Dusk. Dusk is amazing in this book, I'm not gonna lie. Like he's an amazing protagonist, and I love following his journey, and he really does have a full journey throughout the story. And Starling, I've seen people hating on not hating. I see people saying Starling's fine online, and she's not as good as Dusk, but I really liked Starling. There were two parts I got semi-emotional in this book, and that would have been, there was one part for Starling and there was one point for Dusk, and it was just like, I don't know, it was good. And Starling really, I connected with Starling, not like personally, but I empathized with what she was going through, and I thought it was really fascinating to read about. A lot of the Cosmere lore dumps come from Starling's perspective too, so it was always fun to read Starling's POV. I do think the dual narrative works very well, especially with Starling and Dusk. I think that is handled very well, and they complement each other as dual narratives to one story very well, and it gives you the mix-up that you need, and it's just so good. Coming off of Wind and Truth, I know there's a lot of people out there, and I've somewhat put myself in that category, that were a little bit concerned about Brandon Sanderson's prose. And I am so happy to say that it was not an issue at all in this book. If anything, his prose was some of the best, to the same league as Emperor Soul to me. It was such a graphic visual book. It was so beautifully depicted in its words. I think this book is very, very good. However, there's nothing that I'm like, oh my gosh, this clicked with me so much, this resonated with me so much, you need to read this, like how I feel with Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. It's very much, I read the book and I was like, that's a thumbs up, and now I'm kind of done with it. There's no significant click within me that makes this a top tier Cosmere book for me, but it definitely is 2 solid thumbs up. I feel like me saying that, it's gonna come across that I think the book is mid, which I don't think it's mid. I don't think there's anything bad about it, but I don't think there's any S+ moments in the Cosmere in this book. You know what I'm saying? The ebook and audiobook for Isles of the Emberdark is out now, July 10. So get your hands on that if you haven't read it already. For those who pre-ordered the book and didn't back, your cards will be charged around August 19th, and I'm assuming shipping will begin shortly after that, so just get ready for that. As for how it compared to the other secret projects, I'd put Yumi at the top, then Emberdark, Tress closely behind that, and then Sunlit Man in last. Even though I want to love Sunlit Man, Emberdark is like Sunlit Man, but just better in every way. And the last thing I want to say for this non-spoiler section is, what were those Cosmere connections, Brandon Sanderson? Holy cow. If you thought Sunlit Man was intertwined, dear Lord, what was this book? And the fact that he balanced that so well with the story, that's just such an impressive feat, and it makes me so astronomically more excited for the future of the Cosmere. Like anytime anything would happen, I'd be like, oh my gosh, no way he did that. At least it can't get crazier than that. And then it got crazier than that. And then you know what happened after that? It got crazier than that. It was insane. All in all, yes, I recommend you read this book. Now, I know there's gonna be some people there that ask, are there any prerequisites you recommend before reading this book? And one thing I can very happily say about this book is, not really. Like, you can read it and you will understand the complete story and you won't really feel in the dark about a lot of things, especially when it comes to character moments and emotional beats, unlike certain other stories in the Cosmere. Honestly, this is going to be a really weird thing to recommend to read before, but if you have a copy of Arcanum Unbounded, there is a little description of each planetary system throughout the book. I would recommend reading those, honestly, more than anything else. If you read those, you'll understand a little bit more about each system in the Cosmere, so that when they're referenced in the book, you'll at least have a basic understanding of what they are. So honestly, read the planetary systems from Arcanum Unbounded. That's probably at the top of my read before this recommended. Next, I would put Mistborn Era 2 would be good to read. Trust the Emerald Sea, you'll get a kick out of that, and Shadows for Silence in the Forest of Hell. However, I would not, if you want to read this book now, I wouldn't recommend reading any of those before. Just read the book, dude. But again, the planetary systems, they're like 1 page each, and I would recommend reading those. That you would get enough bang for your buck out of that. Okay, now I'm gonna start talking about full spoilers. So if you haven't read the book, skip off now, read the book, and then come back here and watch this section. I thought Duska's journey, especially like in the wave of technology, and that moment when he just came to Starling at the end and he cried and he's like, for the first time, I don't have a home. Like, yes, Dusk! I loved the story of Kokoban and the Wakara or whatever, however it's pronounced. I thought that story was absolutely incredible, and the way it added to the Sanderlands was great. I thought it was so funny when Starling nerded out and was like, it's a negative investiture entity that has adapted to the stories and minds of the people on the planet and has formed into this sort of creature. And then Dusk goes, how is that functionally different? Like, that line made me laugh so hard. I really liked Starling when she really just fed into the monocles for her people, because she's been talking about freedom the entire book, and she still views herself, even Dusk notes on this, and I think that was a very important moment for Starling's character, even though it was in a Dusk POV, is that Starling like looks down, like she's like, yeah, I need to be in charge, like I need to organize these, and it's almost like a Taravangian approach without as much malice of like, I need to be the one to, you know, she looks down on Dusk and she feels like she needs to be the one to create the plan for her people. And so her realizing that, and then realizing that she needs to be the one to push her people, and the best way she can do that is to give up what's most important to her. I thought that was really good. So that's why I don't agree with a bunch of people thinking Starling was fine. I think Starling was just as strong as Dusk. I just think Dusk was unique. We've kind of read voices and prose similar to Starling before, where Dusk was really unique and really good. Where he has his whole, that wasn't a question, so he doesn't answer. Like, he doesn't start conversation. He's really bad at conversation, and he tries. And just like seeing those attempts, like it's very awesome. And just to see him cry at the end, I know I've already said this, but that was really good and very emotional for me. I thought the villain was fine. You know, I didn't hate him. He wasn't super fleshed out. He was fine. There was nothing horrible about him. He did his job, very similar to the Cinder King, how I view him. Okay, now to read my notes on all those Cosmere connections that happened, because I know you want to hear that. First of all, we start off at Yolen. Second of all, Frost is alive and in the future of the Cosmere. Third of all, shard rifles. Fourth of all, shard rifles. Fifth of all, shard rifles. Roshar and Scadrial are at war. What do you mean Roshar and Scadrial are at war? What do you mean Naja's dead? So the fact that Ed is a Vexalian, I almost passed out. I need to know what's going on with the Vax. I would give up everything else in the Cosmere minus Stormlight 6 or 10 just to get a book about Vax tomorrow. I think I would. Sanderson, I need Vax. Dawn Shard number 3 was on Yolen with the dragons. Frost was at the Shattering, guys. Frost was at the Shattering. Hoyt has twins and a wife who doesn't remember him. What is this book? If you want to see my review for Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, you can check it out here. Thank you so much to my patrons, Mac, 6H23, and Zaina for your constant support. It means the absolute world to me. Kay, love you, bye.